On this episode of Delivering Marketing Joy, we talk with Tiffany Tarr about where she finds sources of inspiration and how to find balance. Hey there, and welcome to another edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. I'm your host, Kirby Hasseman, and joining me today is a rock star. Tiffany Tarr is a rock star. It just rhymes. And she's a VP of Sales at Distributor Central and laughs at my corny jokes, so I appreciate that. Tiffany, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Cool. Well, speaking of you being a rock star, you're a mom, you're a wife, you're a rock star sales executive. How do you find balance, or do you?
I think the only balance that I have is imbalance. And I think that if it was any other way, I would feel very uncomfortable. I am all those things. I'm a wife. I'm a mom. I'm vice president of our company. But I don't do anything alone. I have a lot of balls in the air, if you will, but I'm dropping them all over the place, and it's amazing. But there's Jeff that picks up all the pieces that I miss at home. There are sitters that we have. I have help in the house. And then at work, my sales team picks up everything that I'm missing as well. They almost know what I'm going to need or what I'm anticipating to need before I even know that I need it. Same with my marketing team. They know what I'm going to bring to them almost before I can even do it. And I typically just have these really lofty ideas and somebody else is in the background putting it all together. Even Jason and Dave, I'm like, I have this great idea, or we need to do it differently or whatever. And they're just like, okay. And then they figure out a way, or our development team figures out a way to execute it. So it's not me necessarily. I'm just like throwing things out there and somebody else is catching them and taking care of it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. I think that, that's a part of it, right? Is it finding the balance, is finding the things that you're really good at and figuring out a way to get really smart people to do the things that you're not.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's cool. So Distributor Central, you guys are a service provider in our industry, so you work with both suppliers and distributors in the promo world. So when serving both audiences, how do you ensure that you're providing value?
I think that the reason we are providing value is because I am serving both sides of our business.
Okay.
And there's even a third part of our business that I'm serving that we don't even like talk about it usually, but I'm a lot of times working with the distributor and working with their buyer. So I'm really looking or talking to all three facets of the promotional products industry. And what I mean by that is there are distributors out there that know that they have a need for program stores, or they've got a customer that wants to achieve something via technology, and they're not comfortable to speak to that. And they shouldn't be, and they don't have to be. And they'll use me as a resource, or they'll use Distributor Central as a resource to come in and speak with their buyer and tell them what is possible in a program site. Or their buyer will have an idea and they'll bring it to us and ask if we can execute that, if that's on our development panel. And a lot of the times it is. And then on the supplier side, suppliers will go into distributors' offices and they've got distributors that have questions about programs and they don't know how to or don't want to speak to that level of technology. So again, they'll use me or our team as a resource to go in and speak to their customer on how we can achieve a higher level of technology. I very much believe in the concept of a consultative sell with a technology back end. I believe that a distributor, if they can sell consultatively and they can back it up with a piece of technology, they're not losing that customer. Because once a customer is hooked, kind of like Amazon, nobody wants to leave Amazon. I know how to use it, and it just knows what I want. So if we can provide that level of technology for the distributor and they can sell it consultatively, everyone's winning.
Yeah, and it sounds like part of it is too, and I think about you guys a lot, where like you guys understand the industry and you're just listening to all sides to say how can we serve, and I
That's
think
right.
that you guys do a really good job with that.
And what we're hearing right now is we're hearing all of these needs, and I work with the absolute smartest team in this industry, and because I get to hear everything from the buyer to the distributor to the supplier, we can gather all of those needs. And then we can also look at technology as an industry in whole and look at how emerging technologies could play a part of our industry and bring all those pieces together. And we're doing that this year. We're releasing some things in 2018 that I don't know that the industry ever thought they'd have. And it's really exciting to be leading that charge and leading that path.
Cool. That's awesome. That's really good. So as an executive, right, and because you're balancing a lot of the stuff we talked about, I feel like it's super important to try and stay motivated in the world today. So where do you find sources of inspiration?
I find sources of inspiration from all different things. I find sources of inspiration from my kids. I find sources of inspiration from books that I'm reading or shows or commercials. And I look at things that are happening outside of our world, kind of in the promotional products industry. And if it looks really cool outside of our industry, how could it look cool inside our industry too? And I get a lot of ideas or inspiration from there. If it's motivation, I find fear is one of my biggest motivators.
Okay.
Fear of not being on the forefront of new technology, not being a good leader, not having good communication skills. And so I say this all the time. I'm probably not the smartest. I'm probably not the best salesperson in the industry, but you can't outwork me. I will outwork you every day of the week. And I think that part of my personality does come from the fear of somebody newer, faster, younger, getting into the industry. They won't outwork me. They might be all those things, but they won't. And I think that's where a lot of my motivation or that drive, that day-to-day drive comes from.
That's super fair, and I appreciate your candor on that because I think that's one of those motivators that not everybody talks about, right? People talk about wanting to get to the top of the mountain, but they're not always willing to say. And I think that the fear of failure is a legitimate thing that Mark Cuban talks about. You work so hard because you know somebody is working really hard to try and take it away from you. And so,
absolutely.
Yeah, I appreciate your candor on that. Well, cool. So you've answered my 3 questions. Always appreciate that. Yeah, right? So it's not too painful.
No.
So I always give everybody a chance to ask me a question. Do you have one for me?
I do. I want to go back to the first question that you asked me about being a wife and a mom and an executive and how I find balance. And I wanted to find out why we don't ask, as an industry, or maybe as a society, we don't ask that question to my male counterparts or other people that are in a role similar to me.
No, that's a super good question and one that I think we do need to attack. I think that it's interesting. So I think my defense to the question would be that I have at least asked, I can think of one other male counterpart of that question, right? And for whatever reason with that particular guy, I was like, gosh, he seems like a great family guy. And obviously I thought that of you as well. So hopefully you take it in the light that it was intended. But one of the things I would say is, yeah, I think I'm guilty like everybody else that I don't always see Tiffany Tarr or other executives in our industry as executives. I see you as female executives. And that's something we need to work on as an industry, I think. And I think something that we need to change. And so why don't we do it? I think that's a piece that hopefully we as an industry are evolving, but I think it's also outside of our industry. I think that's a culture thing. And I think so much more is asked of women, and I'm not trying to blow sunshine. My wife you talked about your support team. At Hasseman Marketing, my wife's the CFO, but she's also the person that keeps everything going at home. And so with you, it sounds like Jeff's that for you. And so I think that we need to understand that it's a team regardless of who the face of it is. And so I think that's the first step, if that makes any sense.
Makes perfect sense.
I appreciate it.
I think it's a conversation that needs to keep happening because I don't think that I'm doing any more or any less than my male counterparts. I just think that sometimes it seems as if there would be more pressure. I don't know that always people understand that, yes, I'm a woman. Yes, I have kids. Yes, I'm on the road traveling. And yes, I give 100% every day to my career. However, there's a dude at home with the rest of the dudes at my house making sure the laundry is done and that, the house is picked up and, he's making sure that everything's moving there. And it's not just because I have that role doesn't mean I'm actually succeeding in other roles in other places. There's somebody else picking up everything else that I'm not doing.
All right, so let me turn it just for a second, just to dig into a little bit. And here's what I would say, just as a separate thing, right? So I think that we need to do a better job of asking the question as an executive, not as a female executive. But I think the other piece is we often assume that males are buffoons at home.
Yeah. No,
right? And so I think it goes both ways to a degree. And so I think we ought to give the folks, and by the way, I am a buffoon at home, but many guys are total rock stars at home. And I think sometimes that we generalize both ways, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I don't think that part of the conversation is fair either. Mm-hmm. I don't know where my socks are, but Jeff does, I'm kind of a buffoon sometimes at home. So, and I don't think it's fair oftentimes to assume that guys aren't helping with the kids, aren't picking practice up, aren't fixing dinner. It's not fair to the male population either. Just like sometimes it's not fair and I don't feel jaded in any way, shape, or form by being a female executive. Not even a little bit. I even forgot. Sometimes I forget that that's even a conversation.
Right.
But I think the other part of so it's not fair on both sides in my personal opinion.
Yeah, no, that's fun. We need to keep this going, but we've got. But I really appreciate you asking the question because I think it is an important conversation to have. So, good stuff. Well, hey, thanks so much for joining me. I appreciate it. We'll have to do it again, and that's going to wrap up another Delivering Marketing Joy. We'll see you next time.